So I've spent a lot of time in my videos in the past talking about how wonderful it is to purchase a new construction home. Today I actually want to tell you why you shouldn't purchase a new construction home. Hi, I'm Whaley, your favorite Greenville realtor. There are several reasons why you might not want to purchase a new construction home. One of the reasons why I think someone may decide not to purchase a new construction home is if you're buying early in a community, there's potential that that community may not actually get finished, which could mean you might be one of the only homes in the community, which could sound really nice to someone that wants to have a little bit more seclusion and privacy. But if there was this grand plan for the community where they're going to put in a pool, a swing set, and sidewalks, and all these amazing things, and this is going to be this really great, attractive community, and all of a sudden it doesn't get finished, which unfortunately did happen to people in 2008, you could lose massive equity in what you hoped your home to be. So that's something where you do actually run a risk. But the opposite of that is a lot of people, when they buy early in a new construction community, especially in the last few years, they've seen huge equity gains because what's happened is they bought at the bottom when the community was starting because they were willing to take that risk, and then the prices just continued to go up and up and up because there wasn't enough inventory on the market for everyone that wanted to purchase homes. So that is something that is a risk, but there's also a reward to that as well. Another really big thing that could potentially happen, especially if you buy early again, is that the prices of the community could actually go down slightly. What you could see happen in a situation like that is maybe for whatever reason that community is just not selling as well as that builder had hoped, which means that they have to lower the price. They have to find a way to make that community more attractive to everyone. So potentially you could have bought at a higher price point. Now in the last few years, we really haven't seen any of that happening in the market, but that is a risk that could happen when you purchase a new construction home. So just something to be aware of. Another thing is if you're purchasing a new construction home, you might have to deal with a lot of construction noise, construction debris. There might be a lot of cars parked everywhere for all the contractors that are coming into the home. So that's something that if you're not prepared for that could be a negative for purchasing a new construction property. Another factor that someone really needs to consider when they're purchasing a new construction property is the builder contract and what all those obligations mean. Every builder I tend to find has their own contract that they have written. That builder, of course, had their own attorneys write that contract, and it's really written in their favor. So there's a lot of things that you'll find that you may not see in a standard resale contract, which is just written by, here in South Carolina attorneys, which is basically to be bipartial to both parties and just set the obligations for everyone. So there is some differences there. One of the big things that I find when purchasing a new construction home is that the builder typically will require a higher deposit amount initially to get that build started, which in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense. If you're gonna go through and spend all this money on customizations and the builder is going to take the risk to help build from the ground up, they're going to want a larger deposit than the seller who's just taken their home off the market for 14 to 20 days or whatever the process may be. That's something to consider. Finances are a really important part for you. Another thing that I've seen is that some builders will have things like environmental concerns that they won't cover in their contract. The reason why they state that they do this is those standards can really vary, and what is safe to one person is not safe to another, and it gets very subjective. So they tend to write their contract with language where they're not going to actually do some repairs or fixes. Now, a big item here that's in the upstate is radon. So a lot of builders have gone to a standard, we're not gonna fix anything. If it happens, we're basically gonna put in a passive pipe. If you need to make it active to mitigate for radon, that's on your own expense. We might put an electrical outlet up in the attic to deal with this problem if it's needed. That's just something that you're really gonna wanna know when you're going through the build process. And another reason why it's so important to have your own representation. I haven't talked about that much in this video, but I've talked about it a lot in videos in the past. The builder's agent normally is a great person. They know that product inside and out, but ultimately they're being hired and they represent the builder. So they're not on your side to help negotiate and ask all the questions that you may not be thinking about to ask. Some other things that you might want to think about, if you're looking at a large production builder, there might be some things where they have some cost savings that are built in that you may just not know about. Now, some of these things I tend to find are not huge, massive expenses. You want to make sure that you have clear expectations of exactly what the product is that you're going to get. Some of the things that I've seen builders do in the past are things like they're not going to put screens on, or they may not do a garage door opener, or if they do, they use a lower end brand that isn't super powerful. Maybe it's not a noiseless belt. Maybe they don't finish the garage, so you might just have some sheetrock that's there and it kind of is cut at different angles and the garage doesn't have the greatest look and appeal because they just taped it. So those are things that you'll probably want to know. There's several other things that I could go into, and it really depends on the builder. We've learned the different nuances of all the builders here in our area to make sure that we can best support our clients so they know the expectations going into the build. Another huge thing is if you're someone that's on a really strict and tight timeline, it could be a little challenging to do a from the ground up build. The reason I say that is things like rain, contractor delays, material shortages, all these things can affect the timeline of getting your house built. And most builders, while they'll set an initial date or give you a good range of when they'll get the home completed, they have a baked in window to give them some grace because they can't control all of those elements. So if you're someone that has to move specifically on a certain date, that can be pretty challenging when it comes to new construction. It can be really stressful. So that's something that I would factor into the equation if you're thinking about a new build. Over the years, we've helped a ton of people move to the upstate. And I talk a lot about that in our videos of why people are moving here, which has been a lot of fun and been amazing. We love helping people move here to the upstate and make it home. But something that can be challenging when you're looking at purchasing a new construction home if you don't live in the state or nearby is typically there's multiple walkthroughs and there's different checkpoints in your build process. So for someone when they have to spend the money for a hotel and to travel or just to drive up and to take time off work, etc., that can create a little bit of friction in the process. Now, we've been able to help people navigate that through a multitude of different ways, but if you're someone that wants to be there, you want to see every phase of the process, and I really recommend coming in for those checkpoints so that you can really be there, have bootstraps on the ground, and really know exactly what your house looks like, and you can be there to see if there's any concerns that you may have. Then that could be a little bit of a challenge because you might have to come up 4 or 5 times, between the design center appointments and different walkthroughs during your build process, and your work may not allow that, or your schedule, or your budget, or whatever. So that's just something you want to factor in as well if you're thinking about building from the ground up. Now, if you still want to purchase a new construction home and you don't want to go through the process of the design center, the multiple walkthroughs, there are several builders here in the upstate that build what we call spec homes. So you basically can get a new construction home that is move-in ready, that can be on a timeline that fits for you, and you don't have to make a multitude of trips. So it's just depending on your situation and what's most important to you and what fits for your lifestyle and situation when you're looking at new construction. So that's just something else that you want to factor into the equation. One final thing that I want to mention of why you might not want to buy a new construction home. Now, this all depends on the builder and their process, but for the majority of builders, what they do is they have you come in, you see their model, you pick out your floor plan, you pick out your lot, which normally has a lot premium that you pay for, and you do all of your structural upgrades like adding windows, covered porches, etc. You do that, you get your base price of the house, but then you go to the design center and you add on some additional costs. So if you're someone that's really wanting to stay within a certain budget, now you of course can control that at the design center. And I typically tell people to budget somewhere between 10 to 15% of what their base price is in upgrades. And that includes structural more oftentimes than not. But you want to find that out specifically from the rep in the community because it's really important for a multitude of reasons. One is you don't want to overbuild. You don't want to have the nicest home in the community. Now, of course, it's great to have the nicest home in the community, but it may not appraise. It may not get the value that you're looking for. And if for whatever reason your life situation changes and you need to sell that home, you could end up in a situation where you actually are underwater, where you don't have the equity of what you put into it, because a lot of the upgrades that you'll do, unfortunately, don't always create value. So that is really important and something that you need to know. And it just gives some people a little bit of stress when they don't know exactly what that final number is gonna be. Now, again, you always can control this. If you have the right representation, you can ask the right questions to get a good idea. And ultimately, it's gonna be your decision on what upgrades that you wanna do. But it's just something to factor into the equation. It's something that I've seen for buyers where they really just want to know when they sign on the dotted line exactly what they'll be paying. And with new construction, for most builders, you aren't always going to know that. So I've mentioned a lot of reasons why you might not want to buy new construction. My team and I have helped a ton of buyers purchase new construction homes. And there's a lot of really great incentives for purchasing a new construction home and a lot of really great benefits that I've talked about in other videos. But these are just some of the reasons why you might have some hesitation on purchasing new construction homes. I just want to make sure that I'm sharing both sides of the story with you. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear, are any of these concerns for you when you purchase a new construction home? Or was there anything that I missed? I'd love to hear from you.